He stood in front of the massive glass windows of his penthouse, the city skyline glowing beneath the twilight. The world saw Adrian Cole as untouchable, the young billionaire CEO whose empire stretched across continents, a man of charm, power, and control. But behind those sharp suits and icy stares, Adrian carried a wound that no money could heal. The haunting memory of the woman who had once been his everything, the woman who had walked away without a glance back. And now, after years of silence, fate was about to throw her back into his life. The only problem, she was engaged, and Adrian couldn't bear the thought of seeing her look at another man with the love she once reserved for him. That was why, in a moment of desperation, he decided to do something completely out of character. He would hire someone, a stranger, to play the role of his girlfriend. A facade, a lie, something to convince his ex that he had moved on too. But what Adrian never expected was that this fake arrangement would lead him to something he had stopped believing in long ago, love that was real, raw, and transformative. Sparkles, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love to heal the deepest wounds, then please take a moment to like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your support keeps these heart-touching stories alive. Sparkles. Adrian Cole had built his empire brick by brick, starting from the scraps of his broken childhood. Abandoned by a father who disappeared and raised by a mother who worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table, he grew up with one goal: never to feel powerless again. By the time he was 32, he had not only achieved wealth beyond imagination but had also become a figure admired and feared in equal measure. Yet none of the success had ever erased the memory of Claire Reynolds, the woman who had once seen past his hard exterior and touched his soul. They had met when Adrian was just another struggling entrepreneur. Claire, with her warm laugh and quiet strength, had been his anchor. She had loved him when he had nothing. But as Adrian's empire grew, so did the walls around his heart. Long nights at the office turned into missed dinners, forgotten anniversaries, and promises broken by the weight of ambition. Until one day, Claire had packed her bags, whispered goodbye, and walked away. Now, years later, Adrian had received an invitation. Claire was engaged to a wealthy investor, a man Adrian knew all too well from business circles. The announcement was plastered across society pages, the photographs of Claire smiling beside her fiancé slicing into Adrian like a knife. He told himself he didn't care, that she was part of his past. But when he learned they would be attending the same charity gala, something inside him broke. He couldn't walk into that ballroom alone, exposed, vulnerable, and empty-handed. That was when his assistant suggested something insane: find someone to play the role of a girlfriend, just for the evening. A distraction, a shield, a way to protect his pride. Adrian hated the idea. It felt cheap, humiliating even. But pride has a way of twisting desperation, and by the next morning, his assistant had arranged a meeting with someone unexpected. Her name was Emma Hayes. Emma was the opposite of every woman who usually crossed Adrian's path. She wasn't from a powerful family. She wasn't polished with designer labels or dripping with diamonds. She was 26, working as a freelance writer, struggling to pay rent for her tiny apartment, and caring for her younger brother after the death of their parents. Emma walked into Adrian's office wearing a simple dress, her hair pulled back, and a nervous smile playing at her lips. She looked nothing like the women Adrian was used to, but that was precisely what made him pause. She was real. The arrangement was simple. She would pose as his girlfriend for the gala, nothing more. She would be compensated generously, enough to ease the burden of bills and give her brother a chance at a better life. Adrian expected compliance, professionalism, and distance. But what he got was something he couldn't explain. Emma challenged him, teased him, refused to be intimidated by his cold demeanor. Where others bowed to his authority, she stood tall. And for the first time in years, Adrian found himself laughing. The night of the gala came quickly. Adrian, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, extended his arm to Emma, who appeared transformed in a midnight blue gown that shimmered under the chandeliers. Her nervousness was hidden beneath quiet confidence, but Adrian could feel her pulse quicken when he placed his hand at the small of her back. Together, they walked into the ballroom, all eyes turning toward them. And then, there she was. Claire, stunning, radiant, and arm in arm with her fiancé. The moment Claire's eyes met Adrian's, something flickered, a hesitation, a sting of recognition. And when she noticed Emma at his side, smiling up at him, Claire's lips curved into a forced smile. Adrian had won the first round. But what surprised him most was not Claire's reaction. It was his own. Because as the night went on, Adrian found himself forgetting the performance. He found himself genuinely captivated by Emma's presence, the way she handled conversations with grace, the way she noticed the waiters struggling under heavy trays and discreetly helped without drawing attention. She wasn't playing a role. She was just being herself, and somehow, that was enough to make Adrian's guarded heart crack open. What was supposed to be one night stretched into more. The contract ended, but Adrian kept finding excuses to see Emma. Lunch meetings that weren't really about work. Dinners where the pretense of fake dating blurred into something unspoken. Emma, too, felt the shift but fought against it. She knew Adrian's world was dangerous, filled with power games and shadows she didn't belong in. She reminded herself it was temporary. But late at night, when Adrian's laughter echoed in her mind, she realized she was lying to herself. The turning point came when Adrian's ex, Claire, reached out privately. Over coffee, she admitted her engagement was less about love and more about security. She envied Emma, believing Adrian had finally found someone genuine. Claire's words haunted him. For the first time, Adrian wasn't thinking about revenge or pride, he was thinking about Emma, about how her presence had changed him. But Emma had her own battles. When her younger brother fell seriously ill, Adrian stepped in, paying hospital bills without hesitation. Emma tried to refuse, her pride clashing with gratitude, but Adrian's quiet words silenced her. Let me do this, not as a billionaire, not as your fake boyfriend, but as someone who cares. That night, for the first time, Emma allowed herself to cry in his arms. The walls between them crumbled. Adrian no longer cared about appearances, about proving something to Claire. All he cared about was the woman who had unknowingly healed him. Emma, with her kindness, had done what no one else could. She had shown him that love wasn't about possession, but about presence. By the time the truth of their arrangement leaked to the press, Adrian didn't flinch. Standing before the cameras, he admitted everything. Yes, it had started as a lie. But along the way, it had become the truest thing he had ever known. Emma stood beside him, terrified but steady, and when Adrian took her hand in front of the world, she knew he meant it. This was no longer pretend. Their journey was not smooth. They faced criticism, doubts, and the ghosts of their pasts. But through it all, Adrian learned to let down his armor, and Emma discovered her strength was enough to stand beside him. Together, they built something real, not perfect, but deeply human. And in the end, the billionaire who thought he had everything found the one thing he had been missing all along. Sparkling heart, if this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. And if you believe love has the power to heal even the deepest wounds, leave a comment below, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Sparkling heart, right finger special request to comment. What do you think? Can a relationship that starts as a lie turn into true love?